Big picture on Florida State. You want to know why they weren't as good, Richie? And you know this, and we've talked about it, and we've moaned about it and whined about it and complained about it and all the things. They just haven't recruited well enough. Like, and people know that. That's not, nobody's gonna be surprised by that. But Miami was better than Florida State at just about every facet of the game on Saturday, right? Maybe you could give a slight edge to the way that our wide receivers played, but their secondary was really good. The interceptions, I mean, you're throwing into double coverage. I don't know what else you really want, but they were better in the trenches. Their skill guys were really freaking good. Their quarterback, no shot at Tommy, was better. Like, just every area of the field their linebackers, the way that they stopped the run, the depth that they've got. You got an offensive lineman go out and your running game completely dies. They've recruited better. They've recruited like a real program. And unfortunately, Florida State just hasn't. And I hate to make this a recruiting thing. I know that we're in the season and I know what people, it doesn't matter until they sign or this, that, and the other. But at the end of the day, it was a team that was more talented than you in just about every area. And it calls into question, like, can you ever recruit like that? You could get them in a one-off, like Clemson was more talented than you. And so, like, I get it. But like, if we don't figure out a way, whether it's Norvell or somebody else, and I'm not calling for Norvell's job, but if we don't figure out a way to recruit better, we won't compete with those teams. Now, you'll compete with everybody else in the ACC. You can absolutely do that. But if you don't figure out a way to get true difference type playmakers on your roster, guys like Malachi Toney that can just run past people, and then you pair him with a quarterback who can actually throw, like on this interception, like Tommy had him, he just underthrew the ball, right? He had 2 steps on the cornerback. But to me, the recruiting was what showed up to me the most. That's honestly why I wasn't even that upset. I'm upset where the program is in general. I'm upset that we're 3-2 after the biggest win that we've had in years to open up a season. But I wasn't even really upset with that. You got a more talented team that plays better than you, you're going to lose that 10 out of 10 times.
Yeah, and just to shed some extra light on that, who are you competing against every single year? Clemson, currently number 7 in the 247 2025 talent composite, with 7 5-stars on their roster. Then you have Florida at number 12. They have 4 5-stars on their roster. And that's how they beat a team like Texas, because we know it wasn't because of coaching. And I'll continue to take shots at Billy Napier, but he's recruited extremely well. And then Miami is the 15th most talented team in the country, and they have 5 5-stars on their roster. Florida State's down at 19 behind South Carolina with only 1 5-star on their roster. South Carolina has 4 5-stars on their roster, y'all. Like, clearly, roster management has not been very good at Florida State, and you are in year 6. So there's no more excuses whatsoever to try and say, well, he needs some time. If you couldn't build on that 2023 season, then I just don't see this staff as a whole, because everybody knows Gus Malzahn will not be around for a long time. Tony White might be a one and done. Gus and Tony might be one and dones both. You have to find a way to do it, and I don't think it's money. I really don't. Yes, Miami overpays for their roster, but it's paying dividends right now.
Yeah,
like they're seeing a return on investment. I think if you're a good recruiter, like an elite recruiter, you could convince a kid to say, hey, we might only be able to give you, $100,000 less than this school. However, in 3 to 4 years, that's going to exponentially increase by millions. And Florida State has not done a good job selling that. And I think that's a huge problem, because man for man, you just could not line up play by play and beat Miami because they have better players.
Chill out with Locke's Air Conditioning. They are a veteran-owned, Tallahassee-born company that delivers expert AC service and installs from Tallahassee to Panama City. What can you expect? Premium equipment, meticulous work, and a customer-first vibe. They have flexible pricing and an unbeatable 10-year parts and optional labor warranty. You're set for a decade of hassle-free comfort with Locke's Air Conditioning. I know those guys were out at the game this week. They're big Seminole fans, just like you and I were. You may not need an AC. You may not need any service. You may not need anything right now, but put their name and number in your phone. Reach out to them if you are in need and let them know that Double Fries No Slaw sent you. Yeah, they I mean, we had to get tricky, right? And eventually the gimmick offense isn't going to work against a great team. And if you're not executing super well, I did think actually, I'm not trying to give Gus so much crap, right? Let's get on recruit. Let's stay on recruiting. I thought the offense was working. We just weren't executing early, right? Like I thought there were times the guys were wide open, but then, I mean,
Called a good game. Yeah.
they just didn't have the talent. And ultimately, there has to be some kind of a change to where you can get true difference makers. And listen, they've got elite, they've got really good talent in spots, right? Deuce Robinson's, I think, is really good. I think Chroma is really good. They don't have it in the trenches. Like Carson Beck stood back there like a statue last night and never felt any kind of pressure at all. And that was with us bringing blitzes. That was with us kind of mixing up coverages. They did a great job bowing up. Daryl Jackson was phenomenal last night. And there are some really talented guys. Again, you got Deuce out of the portal. You got Jackson out of the portal. Castellanos, obviously, out of the portal. But they're not even close from a talent profile. Now, they're more talented than Pitt. They're more talented than Wake and Stanford and NC State and Virginia Tech that they'll play this year. Yeah, they've
One
got
sack last night, TJ. One sack.
Yeah, and not good, not good.
And that was a linebacker, Blake Nicholson. So
and they'll have a chance against Florida and Clemson. But I'll tell you this, they're not as talented as those teams, and you got to go on the road and play them, you know? And so that'll come down to execution as well. So I don't know, man. I think it's tough to see Florida State and man, even when Miami was beating Florida State consistently or any like very rarely has one team just been so much more insanely talented than the other. And Miami's got one of the best rosters in college football. So I get it, right? Like it's just frustrating when you that is your rival that hired a coach after you hired them and has had to turn over a ton of their roster as well. When you think about their skill positions, they've got a whole new wide receiver unit. They've got a whole new secondary. They've got a brand new quarterback. And they're able to just kind of reload. And you're sitting here like, well, yeah, we reloaded from 2-10, but the roster management, the actual players on the field. I mean, and look what's going to happen next year. I mean, you're going to have Tommy back. Maybe if he goes and gets a waiver, you're going to have Daryl Jackson back. No, you're not. You're going to lose 3 or 4 offensive linemen off of this. You're going to have to try and do it again. And there hasn't been enough recruiting in the trenches or really in a lot of places to give you a confidence that they're just going to, oh, well, next year will be better, right? This isn't, football of 15 years ago where you could develop guys and no, I mean, they're going to have to go back to the portal again and see what hits and what doesn't. And hopefully they do a better job than they did this year. But the actual talent acquisition on this staff, it's just not good enough. I saw Jordan, jumping in. Of course, he's going to fight for his guy. And I've got all the respect in the world for Jordan Travis, but talking about how guys are just, paid this, that, the other. Florida State's still got a top NIL in the country. There's no chance that now Miami spends more money. There's no doubt. Florida spends more money. Texas Tech this year spent more money. Oregon spent more money. There's no chance that Florida State doesn't have a top 12 to 15-ish NIL in the country. And you should be able to use that. You should be able to invest in that enough to convince guys to come, right? That's not you're not going to win every battle against Georgia. You're not going to win every battle against Alabama. You're not going to win every battle against Miami, but you should be able to win enough battles. There shouldn't be defensive linemen that end up, committing to Syracuse and committing to Cal and committing to offensive linemen that commit to Georgia Tech over you. That just shouldn't be happening. And that's all stuff that's happened within this last 12 months. That has to be better. And if it's not, Mike Norvell ultimately, and we've said this for years, this isn't a new take, but if that's what it is at the end of the day, Mike Norvell ultimately won't be the guy. He will be a consistent 8-4, luck up and win 9 or 10 games once a year, fall off the face of the earth and go 5-7 because you're so reliant on the portal. That will just be what his tenure is until either he or somebody else gets in here and is serious about getting athletes and really good players. I'm not saying we don't have any of those guys. I'm just saying we don't have enough.
So I'm going somewhere with this, but let me ask you this. The 2 best transfers Florida State has, in my opinion, are both on offense. Who are they?
Deuce and I don't know. Do you want to go an offensive lineman or is there somebody else you like a little bit more right now? Sawchuck or somebody? Oh, Tommy. Yeah.
And the reason I say that is because Malzahn had a relationship already with Tommy and Deuce is a legacy. So if you take those factors out of the equation, who have we brought in? Sawchuck was a good addition, to your point, to bring that up. But that just recruiting has not been good. I mean, Keon Coleman was a phenomenal get. That like you will not find a much better portal get than a Keon Coleman, but that was kind of a once in a coaching lifetime, so to speak, get. So I just it's just frustrating because the portal has kind of dried up for Florida State a little bit. Again, Tommy, I love him. I think he's a very good college quarterback. Fits Malzahn's offense perfectly. But again, Deuce, his dad played at Florida State. He was coming home, so it made sense for him. But who else are you getting? And you're certainly not getting it done at the high school level. I've just stopped paying attention on National Signing Day because we lose our best player every year anyway. So why the hell do I even need to watch the ceremonies when they do the signings? Yeah, it's frustrating. I really like Mike Norvell. He's a amazing person. I think you'll have a hard time finding a coach who loves his players more than he does, but he's just not getting it done. And I don't know the reason for that. Florida State should be an easy brand to sell. When you have the third most talented roster in the state of Florida, and you're one of the big three, that's an issue. You mentioned it back when Florida State and Miami used to have big games all the time with a ton of talent. I think it was the 88 game, over 50 players were drafted in the NFL between both teams. That's crazy to me. I don't know how many players on this team will be drafted. You might get some UDFAs, but less than 10 players from this current roster will probably be drafted.
Yeah, I mean, if you had to guess, I'm right. I mean, Daryl Jackson will get drafted. I think Deuce will probably get drafted. Cromwell will probably get drafted. I don't know if anybody on the offensive line will.
No.
Maybe Pettis could.
Just because his frame, his body size,
yeah,
I think potentially, yeah.
I think it would be a stretch to think.
Nobody in the secondary.
I mean, there might be some young guys like Arno or something. They could in a couple of years. Yeah, nobody in the linebacker core would get drafted.
Nobody.
I mean, the Desir twins could form into that. But yeah, like boy, I just named a bunch. Like 10-ish, right? Like you're looking at like 10 guys, and you're counting on some of them to be developed.
And we had 13 drafted in the 2014 NFL draft.
Yeah, the talent
in 1 year alone.
There. Listen. That Miami, boy, I hope not. Knock on wood, right? Let's manifest this the other way. Miami might win. I think they're going to the playoff, right? Like they're really
they are. Oh, 100%.
And they look like a team with in a field that's wide open. They look like a team that could compete for it all. Like they just do. And so maybe Florida State played a bad game against a great team. And maybe they win the rest of their games on their roster or on their schedule, right? I'm not saying they do, but like maybe, right? And then maybe we'll have a different take. But man, you had such an opportunity at 3-0, and a lot of advantages working your way. And man, you just went out and absolutely, squandered it. And again, at the end of the day, talent matters, and there's not enough. And I think they'll be fine the next several weeks. You play a lot of teams that have way less talent than you. You should be fine, but we'll see. Maybe not, right? It's easy to say that now. You had more talent than Virginia did. So to end this video, I do want to remind you that all of our content is brought to you by Sleeper. Make sure that you are checking out the Sleeper app. Right now, you get a free $20 bonus just by using our code DFNS. If you've been waiting to deposit, now's your time. Appreciate Sleeper for their support.